Hello everyone, my name is Triton, and I'm here today bringing you a book review. I guess I'm sort of starting a newish series. It's Triton's favorite books or something like that. I'll figure out a name for it when I get to it. The idea is that at the beginning of this year, I wanted to start making videos again. You know, New Year's resolutions and stuff like that. So my goal was first to start making videos for my main channel, which is a music channel. And then after I have that going, I can start making videos for this channel again. So I would have started earlier, but after making a few videos for my music channel, I went to go play some games of Go, and I went on a huge losing streak. And so I was definitely not so motivated to make some videos until I started to get past losing streak, and I am getting past it, and I'm working on some new stuff. One of the things I was doing during that time was going through my books. And of course, around Christmas time, I got another iTunes gift card. I buy most of my Go books on the Smartgo app. It's just called Smartgo Books, I believe. It has a good selection of stuff, some stuff that you can't even buy without spending a lot of money. The book that we're going to go over today is Cho Hun-hyeon's, horrible pronunciation, Lectures on Go Techniques. And I checked online, and it does seem like you can buy at least the first volume. The idea behind these reviews is that I'm only going to review books that have personally helped me or that I wish I had read a long time ago. When I say wish I'd read a long time ago, I guess that roughly translates to solidified some of my knowledge. And these books were really good for that. Volume 1 is the main book that discusses technique, because Volume 2 is all problems. Now, the problems are explained, so it's introducing you to techniques and explaining the techniques. But the first book gave you lectures on the basic techniques altogether. The first book is the more important book to have, but it's good to have them both just to solidify your knowledge. So the techniques that are being discussed in the book are not things like tesuji. That's not what this book is about. It's about common technique when you're playing a normal game. What a lot of people would consider just the normal moves and why they're good. And to sort of explain that, I have a problem from the second book. This is the very first problem in the book, because the first chapter, first few problems in any book on the Smartgo app is free. So I didn't want to use any of the content that wasn't free. And it's a good problem that really shows you the type of content that is in this book. So if you're interested in what these problems are discussing, then you will more than likely be interested in the book. So in this problem, white has just played at 1 or f17, and the question is not where is the next big place to play on the board, but how do you defend the corner? What is the correct move for defending the corner? So I want you to take a second you can pause the video and just try to figure out how you would personally defend the corner. You don't have to worry about if it's right or wrong. We're actually going to discuss quite a few options. Just think of the move that you would play. Now, if you didn't pause the video, or you just unpaused it, I guess, I'm going to start talking about the answer now. So many people who have played this game for a while, I'm sure even 10Q and most single-digit Q players, they already know what move that they would play, and it's more than likely this move at d18. We know that this move is good, but is it the correct move? And in this case, yes, it is. So yeah, that wasn't a hard problem, was it? But it goes a little bit deeper than that. We know that this is the correct move, but do you know why it's the correct move? And that is what I think this book is good for. It's providing justification or helping you understand why you would play a move. Let's think of some other moves, and then we'll go back and talk about this first one. So one of the first moves that we're always told is bad is the kick. Is it bad here? It is bad here because the kick reinforces white into a perfect extension at k17. 2 stones need to expend 3 spaces, and so this is a perfect formation for white. Apart from that, the corner is not secure yet. If black plays another move around here, white is able to come into the corner. And if black tries to block the outside, then black may have a problem because of this cutting point. So if black defends the cutting point, then white's just alive. Maybe that wasn't the best way to live, but just a simple example. That means that if black's going to Tanuki, he has to give up the points in the corner. At the very least, we can see something like this. white got pretty large profit in Sente. So this is very acceptable for white. And then, this may not be the best move, but if we place a move right here, doesn't it actually start to look like white maybe making a couple more points in this area, while potentially reducing black? It does seem like white has a little bit of potential here. White's not going to make a lot of points there, but having a little bit of potential is better than not having it, of course. So the kick is bad, but what about something like this one? Is this one bad? White can block here, which opens up the corner Aji again, which means you owe another move. And white wants to respond here. There's no more corner Aji, but white got a few points here. And your corner is not really that much bigger than it was. Well, than it can be if you just played d18 directly. Again, white has the potential to build a couple more points in this section and is solid. So we're making white stronger for no reason. And it also discusses this move, which is a similar idea. Yes, the corner is being protected, but white has a perfect formation here, doesn't do another move, and can tanuki. And black's formation here is not really a good idea because white's already strong in this area, which means that black won't be able to make many points and black won't be able to attack. So if black can't attack or make any points, then building up influence like this doesn't really matter. And they also discuss this. Now this is good for white because white's strong and black hasn't really accomplished much. So as you can tell, the book goes into lots of details. And this is the second book that's only problems. So this is the type of reading that you would need to do in your game. But what impressed me even more was that it not only went over all those, but it also went over the iron pillar here versus the jump. This move is acceptable because it accomplishes a similar goal. You didn't strengthen white, you strengthened the corner, and you're leaving this invasion point behind at h17. So why would this not be considered better or just as good? Well, there's a simple reason, and it's just in-game. White has this good in-game move here, and if black blocks, white has this Hane and connect. And white has a good in-game move here, right? So we don't want to give white two really good in-game moves. So if you don't end up invading here, or white strengthens it, we want the endgame to not be worth as much, which is why you would play d18. Because if there's endgame, like this move, you can play like this, and your corner's defended, or you could play like this, and you just end up with a few more points than you would before. And it's not that you get more points directly, but this move is no longer Sente, which means that if your opponent Hane's here, then you can take the next move. So I thought it was very interesting that they addressed the fact that this move isn't played because of endgame, and that's why this move is preferred. So the book covers lots of little details, and it does it in a way that's not like an information overload, because just one page at a time, at least with the digital version in the Smartgo Books app. I know that they do change the way the book looks to more appropriately fit the format that it's in. And if you look at the board, this maybe was a handicap game, but it does look like a possible board position. So they're very realistic problems. So I did get one more. It's black to play again, and white has just played at 1, which is threatening the invasion at A. Your goal is to protect your invasion in the best way. So you should pause the video and just try to find the move that you would want to play here. But I'm just going to keep going. So there are a lot of different ways that you could play in this area. The reason you're given the full board is so that you know, or you have more information as to how severe you have to be or how passive you have to be. But let's just go, as I did with the last one, play the correct option and then talk about why other moves aren't as good. So it's just as simple as the previous problem. We just want to jump here. This jump is threatening the invasion at c14. So if white wants to protect the invasion, white will probably jump as well. And that gives black the initiative to play something like c2, which is a large endgame move, but it's also threatening the base of these two stones. So you might be able to get it in Sente, which would be even better. And in this way, black has secured all of these points. So one of the things that it addresses about this position, though, which I find was interesting and probably extremely helpful for weaker players, is that some people would be worried about an invasion. Now, it doesn't talk about every single invasion and what you should do in every situation, but it gives you a small example and gives you the idea that you want to work towards. So it says that this invasion by white is not a good idea. And the reason is because black can play from the outside and kill white on the inside. After this e8 move, if white attaches underneath, black can honey from this side. If white extends, then when black connects, white can't make life in this area. And you should read all this out and try to figure this out for yourself. But let's say that even if white could make life, is it a good idea? Let's say that just like something happens and white's alive, right? We'll pretend that this is alive right away. Well, in order to do this, white had to sacrifice all the points in this area. So white's initial jump here at e12 has become a useless move, and white's move at c12 has also become a bit more useless. And even more simply, just turning here, or you could attach. Like, black has so much more potential to hurt this area. So white's not getting any of these points in exchange for taking away black's points here. But black is getting a thick position on the outside to, like, attack these stones in some way, right? Just try to attack these stones. So even if white does live, it's not that bad for black. But the idea here is that if white invades here, you want to play on the outside to prevent white from escaping. So if white does something like a peep here and coming down, then you want to play on the outside again to try to prevent white from escaping. And you could do like a clamp or something. And so if white comes out, then you can just take your territory. Or if white plays something like this, you can just take your territory. So I thought it was interesting that it did address the basic idea of how you should approach an invasion in the area, and that you shouldn't really worry about it. Apart from that, let's find out about the other moves that it talks about. For example, this move here, like a lot of these examples are going to be actually fairly similar to the last problem, because this was problem number 2. So it's in the similar section of the book. So if white honeys here and you back off, then you've strengthened white, and you have strengthened the invasion here, but you haven't really accomplished too much else. And strengthening white directly is not really necessary. And that includes this variation. White already has a really good formation here. White does not need to play another move. And so white can take this endgame point as an example. This is a pretty big move. If black gets it, white probably has to respond because white's group would be in danger. So you don't really want to attach. And you don't want to just invade. Maybe not like this. Maybe white would play this way. But this is going to strengthen white which would let white invade in your area. Now, the other idea that you don't really want to do is just back off. Part of that is because it's a little bit passive, and you don't want to play too passively if you can get away with a better move. But while this strengthens black's area, and it's about the same with this move, while this strengthens black's area, it doesn't really make white more weak with this invasion. So white could Tanuki. And yes, there's this invasion here, but white could just attach underneath or do this. But because there's not a move closer in this area, white's not in as much pain, you could say. So apart from being a little bit passive, just taking your territory, it's also not really threatening as severe of an invasion. But thinking of it that way, some people might have actually thought of this move. I know this was one of my considerations when I first looked at the problem, because I'm a fairly passive player. So I try to look at the more aggressive moves when I'm reading books to find out if, oftentimes my move is a bit too passive. So I look at the more aggressive variation. This move's not bad. Like if black had a bit more strength in the area, like if black already had this on the board and then played here, that's looking a bit better. But the reason you want that backup here is because white will just respond to that move. And then you have to worry about this cut. But are these exchanges on the bottom good for you? Doesn't this actually make C2 a better move for white to play rather than for black to play later? So it hurts your in-game possibilities to make this sort of exchange. So you should only play it if you are sure you're going to get something, like if it's a leaning attack, or you already have a bunch of moves in place so that you will get points there. So without that sort of exchange, playing this move means that you kind of need another move here to actually secure the points. Regardless of if the cut works or not, which the cut does work. If we play just endgame move, white can cut here because the ladder goes to this white stone here, which means the ladder doesn't work. So if black just has to connect or something, and you can capture these two stones, that's not that bad for white. You just captured a few stones and you didn't even have to pay that big of a price for it. That's pretty cool. But this also means that, as I said, regardless of if the cut works, white has other moves to try to take advantage of the cut. So maybe white can invade a little bit more deeply. Like I mentioned, white could possibly play here to reduce. But if white can come in just a little bit more as an invasion, then that's obviously a bit better, isn't it? So when strengthening yourself, you don't want to leave weakness behind unless you're strong enough to deal with that weakness. So that's why the book recommends just jumping up. If white just jumps up, you can take this big endgame point and threaten this group. And if white just responds, maybe you can poke at it a little bit more, and then you can just continue endgame or try some sort of invasion, attachment, whatever you feel is necessary for this point in the game. So while I added a couple pieces of information, the majority of what I said is actually just in the book. So if you've ever wondered about why this move is the correct move, like it feels like I can get a good, it feels like this doesn't seem that bad. White plays here and then I get this move and white defends and it's like, yeah, I've accomplished, the same thing, haven't I? Well, only kind of. You're leaving a weak point behind. Can you handle that weak point? Then maybe it's not that big of a deal. But at least understanding why it would be considered a subpar move is what this book is all about. I think it talks about crosscuts. It talks about lots of little middle game situations and some opening situations. But it's all about, like, this first section here is obviously about strengthening yourself without strengthening your opponent. And it's just a very good book for, I would say, the majority of players. You could probably read this book around 10 to 12 Q, but I would more so recommend it for single-digit Q players and Dawn players, like a 1 Dawn and 2 Dawn, if they want to solidify their knowledge. So hopefully this video was helpful. I will be reviewing other books that I really enjoyed and hopefully getting up other videos and not just those. Anyway, I think that's about all for this video. I hope you have a good day. See ya.